Although the local economy has improved slightly compared to when COVID-19 first hit, it's still in a very difficult position. Growth for this year is expected to be at about 2%. But delaying implementation of structural reforms is seen as a significant risk. Experts say the budget will likely focus on continued fiscal consolidation and faster implementation of structural reforms. The State of the Nation address highlighted the need to make conditions more conducive for the private sector to flourish and create jobs.
The balancing act that we want to see from the budget is to get that balance right between populist policies, things like this extension of the grant, but also back to the zone of the president that made it very clear to say that private sector needs to be involved and create jobs. So to remove a lot of the red tape so that private sector can actually get the economy growing and create jobs. So we need to have policy on both sides coming out of the budget, and that will buy us some time to actually keep the social compact together, but also allow private sector to get more involved to actually get economic growth going, because that's the real solution to all the problems.
Spending pressures remain, with the high poverty levels, rising unemployment and inequality. Attention will be given to social support, especially after the president announced the social relief of distress grant would be extended to next year. It's unlikely state-owned companies will get further bailouts. Public wages remain another risk to government's efforts to put finances on a sustainable path, but economists believe National Treasury will keep tight control on spending.
There needs to be a new wage agreement coming up. Thus far, it just seems that it will be a rollover of that cash gratuity grant that happened last year. But wage bill growth needs to be kept under control, and because that's a big one. It's almost a third of total government spending. And of course, then the COVID grant that was extended. And clearly the minister said last year in the MTVPS that can only happen if economic growth is strong enough to sustain that extra revenue. So we got the extra revenue, so that's why it was extended. So that was a positive. But now for further extension of the income grant or for basic income grant, we haven't got the money for that. So then there need to be new taxes. And new taxes, as you know, is a drag on economic growth. So it's a tight spot. But clearly, you're right in suggesting that expenditure is a big potential risk if we don't keep that under control. I don't think there'll be extra money for state-owned enterprises.
The country's debt levels and debt servicing costs remain a concern, while it's expected that the revenue will exceed forecasts, leading to lesser deficits. With the low economic growth, government will still need to borrow to fund shortfalls.
There is no way out other than that government is going to have to borrow still more and the public debt will rise. At the moment, we're talking about budget deficits in the region of between 4 and 6% of GDP for the coming fiscal year. And if the economy grows at any rate well below that, of necessity, it means that government will have to borrow more money than it is able to generate in the form of increased tax revenue. Unless it is very fortunate in the very short term and commodity prices remain high, and then it will be able to get away without increasing the public debt. But from a longer term perspective, unless we can lift the sustainable growth rate of the economy to levels of 4, 5, 6% per annum, there can be no other way but that the debt will continue rising for the next few years.
In order to achieve higher growth levels, government will need to speedily implement structural reforms to change the weaknesses that have contributed to the weak economic performance. Gloria Sefakomosi, SABC News, Johannesburg.